Hello, you guys. I know nobody's here yet because this is kind of impromptu. And forgive my baggy t-shirt, but I just was trying to relax today. Forgive the bad lighting. It's a rainy day, and honestly, I just kind of want to have this discussion. I'm not trying to do anything ultra fancy. I was going to do this as a recorded video, like a pre-recorded video. But number one, I am doing a commentary on the Candace Owens Mark Lamont Hill conversation. And that was just so much information that I just couldn't sit through recording anything else. I already have like mad editing to do on that video. And two, because I thought this was a discussion that was better had live. Like when I really took time to think about it, I was like, okay, it's probably better to have this discussion live than just me talking at the camera. But I wanted to talk about the pink pill, and not so much Crystalline, but the women who subscribe to her philosophy. And this was on my heart because, hi, Lindora. Hi, B, Omi, Damon. You actually like the pink pill? Yeah, so I don't watch Crystalline's channel or anything like that. But I had I had a live the other day with Amawali Africa, and the divestment movement was brought up. And a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago or so, I actually approached Crystalline, and I asked her if I could interview her, and her attitude was basically like, she wasn't rude or anything. She was just basically like, yeah, no, I don't think so. You know, some of the people that you associate with, like, I don't really vibe with them. You know, so she was basically like, I'm going to just stay in my own corner, which I had to respect because, of course, you know, maybe she felt she would come over to my channel and be attacked because I know she's commonly attacked. Obviously, you guys know that's not my vibe. But I want to discuss the ladies that subscribe to this more than anything, I think is what is important to me, right? So, okay. Misanthropic Lioness, I'm glad that you're here. Misanthropic Lioness said she doesn't subscribe to everything, but she has good points. I less want to talk about Crystalline's points than the women who listen to her. So recently we know that there was a young Black woman who was both raped, allegedly. We're not sure if the man that killed her is the man that raped her, but we are sure that the man that killed her, right? We're sure about that part. Essentially, his mother was doing a bunch of caping for him. You know, he's killed and assaulted multiple people. And basically his mom says it's always because somebody called him a nigger or insulted him or something like that. And so apparently if he's insulted, he just flies off the handle and assaults people and kills people. And this was a Black man. And so the pink pill held a live, and I decided to go over to her channel because when Brother Africa and I, when Amawale and I were talking, he said, you know, the message isn't for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've already made their choice. So I decided to go over and see, you know, what was really being said over there. Now, I clicked through the videos a lot, and some of them were really cringeworthy. I'm not going to lie. Some of them were really cringeworthy. But this particular one, which was prompted by the rape and the murder of this young Black woman who was homeless. She was homeless, but she was participating in the Black Lives Matter protests for Black men, and then a Black man killed her. And Black Lives Matter has not made a big deal out of her death. And so the women had come together to talk about this. And I just want to play some of what they said, and I want us to discuss it and if it's true. And my thought process on this, after listening to them, that there were 5 major points that these women pointed out caused them to feel as if they had to divest. And so I'm going to go through all 5 of those points, and I'm going to put it to you guys as to whether or not these things are true about the Black community. So obviously, if this were a pre-recorded video, because I'm using somebody else's content, I would give a fair use disclosure. But because this isn't pre-recorded, I'm just going to give my fair use disclosure because, you know, not to say that Crystalline would copyright me, but I don't have time. So I just like to do it anytime I use anybody else's content, and I am about to use hers. So federal law allows citizens to produce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for the purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. So, with that said, let's get into it. And I want to start first with something Crystalline said herself, and then I want to go into point 1 of these ladies, and I'm going to let you hear in their own words them talking about their experiences and just see if there's any truth to it. Let me know if you guys can't hear her as well.
They're telling on themselves, so it's getting easier for us to know which areas are safe and which isn't.
And here's the thing too, the internet has been a godsend for Black women, because I can tell you how many times, because I used to think, is it just me? Is it just my experience that I'm going through this? The internet has allowed for us all to come together and say, yes, girl, yes, that was my experience. Yes, that happened to me too. And now it's so, like, you can't deny it. You know, you can't say we're all lying. You can't say we're all bitter. You can't say that, you know, who hurt you? Clearly the community is hurting us. I mean, it's global from sea to shining sea. I mean, listen to what we're saying. Listen to Black women. Listen to what we're saying.
Okay, so the first thing somebody says is somebody, maybe a Black man, hurt her. And she's coming out and saying, yes, we have been hurt. We're being hurt by the Black community. And I really want you guys to listen to some of the ways these women say they're being hurt. So this first woman is going to talk about hiding abuse in the Black community. So one of the claims that these women make, and again, this conversation is prompted by the rape and murder of this young Black girl who was a Black Lives Matter protester, but nobody is protesting on her behalf. So one of the claims that they make is that in the Black community, we hide abuse. We hide abuse. And that is one of the many reasons a lot of these women are able to relate to Crystalline's message. So let's just listen to this first young lady talk about the covering up of abuse within the Black community.
You are muted.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
When I saw this on Twitter, I was so angry, because it was a clear example of a Black girl being failed again and no one caring about it. And the first thing that I saw when people were looking at her tweets about sexual assault, they were saying that it can't be a Black man, because she described it and said that it was a Black man who did this. And I saw certain comments, people were saying, no, it can't be a Black man. This is Black Lives Matter. This is the time you should be focusing on it. Stop being divisive. This is what Black women always do. And Black men were saying that, no, this definitely was a white man and it was white supremacy. And if it was a Black man, he was probably a victim of white supremacy. as if that's a normal answer for assault.
Right. Yeah. So if a black man does something horrible to a black woman, it's because he's so frustrated and so oppressed that he needs to kick women in the stomach and sexually assault them, and it's never their fault. And this is what I talked about in a few videos before, about how the rates of molestation, the rates of rape and incest and all of that is so high within the black community, but people don't want to talk about it because it makes black men look bad. But meanwhile, our lives are being put in danger because we refuse to talk about it. It's not accepted. We're being divisive if we're actually communicating this. And I got to tell you guys.
Okay, so I just want to stop there. And I think it's important that we recognize that that assertion is correct. 60% of Black women, and this is what is reported, have experienced sexual abuse in some way before they were 18 years old. 60%. That's most Black women. And I think, without, anybody having to say anything in the chat, there are Black women here, Black men, Black women. I can say this is true to my personal experience. When I think of the Black women that I know and things like that, what I recognize is that that's true. Most of the Black women I know have been sexually abused in some way. And I know many stories of Black women where that sexual abuse was normalized within the home as well. So that's a true assertion. And it's also what happened to this young lady, which is why her story resonated with so many. And we are told, that if we call the police on Black men because the police are aggressive toward Black men and the system is hard on Black men, that it can be harmful to them. If the sexual molester, which is often the case, not just in Black households, but in most sexual abuse cases, is in the home or part of the family, a lot of times it's brushed under the rug. I've known women who their mother's partner is their abuser. So yes, I think if we're honest, right? If we are, I don't want to make the video part of the live, Dark Prophet. I don't want to make it part of the live. I'm playing it separately because I want to play it separately, but I appreciate that. If we wanted to protect our women, this is their assertion, if we cared about Black women as a community, we would not allow them to be abused and molested en masse, because 60% is most Black women. And so that it is indicative of the Black community not caring for its women. Now, this is the assertion that's being made. We cannot dispute the sexual abuse rates are very high for Black women in the community. That's just indisputable. We're not even going to pretend like they're making this up. They aren't making it up, right? So let's continue, because I want us to keep listening to what they're saying, because a big part of what they said as I was hearing them talk is nobody's listening to us. Nobody seems to care about us, right? People are calling them names and treating them badly and calling them traitors and bed wenches and all this. But when I hear these women talk, they're only saying like the Black community doesn't care about us and they don't care about us. And this is how we know it. And one of the things they're calling on is abuse in the Black community toward women, sexual abuse toward women in the Black community. And they're not being outraged at the fact that so many women are being abused in the Black community. So I want us to keep listening. There's about a minute more of this clip that I would like to play of this particular part. So let's go to the next part of it that I want us to hear.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's never discussed. Black women, we march for everybody but ourselves. I don't know. I mean, I don't see if there was a global march for Black women, I would join. I think that there's a time there. It's the time that we start standing up for our own dignity, but we're so guilted into just falling in line and being quiet and not saying anything about the abuse that we experience because we don't want to get one more Black man locked up, and we're constantly caring about the shelter and covering of the victimizers who are doing
Can
this.
you imagine that people are saying to women in domestic abuse situations to not call the police? Can you imagine this is the advice because they don't want a brother to go to jail?
Yeah, but that's the truth.
So the caller, who is from Europe, right? The caller is from Europe. She says, can you imagine telling a victim of domestic abuse to not call the police? Can you imagine telling a girl that's been raped that they don't want to get the accuser sent to jail or get the rapist sent to jail? But that's exactly what the community tells Black women. This is true. I've definitely heard. Okay, so Johnny, I see your comment, and this is not about Crystalline Karazin. I really want to make this clear. This is not about Crystalline Karazin. This is about the women who are attracted to her. And it's really important that no matter how you feel about Crystalline, what we're listening to today are the women who are attracted to her, the women who her message makes sense to them to some level, and why those women gravitate there. So I really, no matter what kind of feelings anybody has towards Crystalline, we're not going to bash Crystalline here. We're not. We're not here to discuss Crystalline's rhetoric. I'm not touching that. I only want you guys to listen to the women. Listen to the women and what they're saying. Because what they keep saying over and over is the only reason they're gravitating toward Crystalline is because we are not listening to them. Because if they come and talk to us, we don't care what they're saying. So why don't we actually listen to them for once? Forget about Crystalline and listen to what these women are saying. If you think that she is pandering to the ills that are going on in the Black community, then that means that we must listen to what these women are saying and address these problems as a community, or they're going to keep listening to people like her. They're not going to, why should they listen to us? Why should they listen to us if we won't listen to them? Why should they care about the Black community if the Black community doesn't care about them? It's the least that we can do. So please, please do not get caught up in whether or not you guys like Crystalline. This is not about her. Please try to focus on the words coming out of these women's mouths. This woman has said, we are sexually abused and molested. And we are told to keep quiet about it. We're told it's our fault. We're told not to call the police because the police might harm the person that raped us or molested us. And I'm asking you, is that true in the Black community? Is it true in the Black community? We know that 60% of Black women are molested, and that is what is reported. It could be higher. 60%. That means most Black women are sexually abused in some way before they turn 18. Do we tell those women that they are fast and it is their fault? Do we tell those women to not call the police because that will put Black men in more danger than not? Do we drag these pedophiles through the street? Do we beat their asses? Do we come to the table for these women? Does the Black community do that? You guys tell me. Do we do that collectively as a community? Can we say that 60% of our women are getting sexually molested and we're doing a good job of protecting them? Can we say that 60% of our women are molested and we're listening to them? That's all I'm asking. I don't care about Crystalline. I don't care about what she's saying. I care about what these women are saying that are gravitating to her. Because they're gravitating to her because they cannot gravitate to us. They feel like we are not listening. So maybe it's time we listen. Instead of calling them bed wenches, instead of attacking them, instead of saying that they worship white men, instead of putting them down, why don't we listen to what they're saying? Because what I did not hear for this hour and 30-minute long live that I listened to is I really heard with my ears, not one Black woman talk badly about a Black man. I heard several of them say, I don't want to diminish what Black men are going through, but we need to be protected. And I want you to hear it too. I want you guys to hear it too, because we lose people in our community because we don't choose to address these issues. So that's the first woman. Number one, they say that we hide abuse. This is what the women who are gravitating toward pink pill say. Number one, they say we hide abuse in the community. They say the Black community hides abuse of Black women. Let's go to point two. Point two is that they feel that they are unheard and that they are unloved, okay? And I want us to hear them say that. They feel unheard. They feel unloved.
You have to mute your computer, Chris.
Oh, it's the one that I did. Okay, I hope that works. Yes. So, I work in an emergency department in New York City. The reason why I mentioned that is because I predominantly work with Black people. And, I had a lot of them look at me as, what?
Can you guys hear this one? She's very low, but I'll tell you what she said. She's just very, very low. I thought about raising the audio on this before my live, but I hope that you can hear her.
Or what's your opinion about this? And I made an effort not to discuss it with anyone, but the topic of abolishing the whole funding. And I'm completely against it. If you do a quick Google search, you'll realize that most of the crimes that happen in neighborhoods that I myself live in happen to Black women at the hands of Black men.
Yes.
To me, that is also a part of Black Lives Matter, and it's disturbing that it's not a topic in the forefront. And if someone were to mention it, if you're being told that you're trying to shift the focus, and it's the same thing that women have been told from the beginning of time, and I always refer back to the Future and the Truth, where it's like, let's deal with the larger issue first, and then we'll focus on the woman.
Right. It's like, when it be the issue?
Well,
it's been 100 years of you saying that.
Okay, so that young lady was really low, but essentially she was saying that part of protecting the community is not just about protecting the lives of Black men. That when Black women come to the Black community and say we are having these problems, that they are told one thing at a time. Basically, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And that we'll take care of the one issue and then we'll take care of your issue. That they're basically being put on hold. That Black women's issues are being put on hold, right? And so then the question is, then when is it our time, right? I do think that that's fair. I think in the Black community, we tend to act like we can't walk and chew gum at once, right? Although Black Lives Matter is a trash organization that has a gay agenda, if Black people are going to go out for that, if you're showing the faces of those Black men, show the faces of the Black women. If there's going to be outrage, we should be as quick to do it for both sexes, right? But more than anything, we need to have checks and balances in our community. We need to have families, even at the grassroots level, that deal with these issues when they come up. We cannot ignore 60% of our women who are damaged and abused. And then when they grow up and they are dysfunctional in the mind and are easily manipulated into thinking, well, Black men hate you. Black men hate you. It's clear that they hate you. Aren't these the same men that raped you? Aren't these the same men that beat you up? Then that's easy to go and to think that the option is to choose a different group of men if somebody tells you that's your only option. If no people in the Black community are coming and being like, you know what, we need to stop this shit. Leave our little girls alone. Right? Leave our little girls alone. If a Black man is beating a woman, that other men step in and stop that. If that's not going on, then it can be problematic. I want to go to this next clip, and this comes under point 2. Remember, point one was hiding abuse. They say the Black community hides sexual abuse of women. I think if we're honest, we can agree the Black community does hide sexual abuse. Our sexual abuse rates are off the freaking charts. There is no reason that most Black women have been sexually abused. There are no excuses for that mess. The second thing is, if you try to bring up the fact that Black women are being abused, you're basically told, shut up. And being told to shut up makes them feel unloved. These women are literally saying they don't feel loved by Black people. They don't feel that the Black community really loves them. Because if you loved us, you wouldn't allow these things to happen to us. I don't think that that's a far stretch, but let's hear them talk about it. Again, this is not about Crystal and Karazin. It's about the issues that these women put forth as the reason that they choose to listen to Crystal and Karazin versus embracing us. And we should hear them out.
There's not an emphasis in it within the community. There's not the outrage within the community. The only way that Toyin would get outrage is if a white man had molested her and killed her. It only matters when a white man does it. And that's just evidenced from what I see. From what I see, the only outrage is when you see a white man victimizing a Black woman. And I think there's a lot of reasons. I believe that there's this war by proxy between the men, and they're using the women to ward. So whenever something happens, or if a white man does something to a Black woman, then it's all out war. However, if the Black woman is, say, interracially paired, or if she's in any way, it's like, oh, she's not one of us. She doesn't deserve. George Floyd had a white fiance, and the world has stopped for him. But can you imagine if George Floyd would have been Georgetta Floyd, and she was on Pornhub?
So I want to stop there because she's going to go to the archetype that is George Floyd. But I think she brings up a good point. But I think what we fail to realize is the same reason that the community gets more outraged when a white man hurts a Black woman than if a Black man hurts a Black woman. It's because we feel that other groups of people shouldn't be able to damage our women, right? And no matter how dysfunctional that is, it's not something that's unique to, to Black women. We feel the same about Black men. Black men attack each other all the time. But the community really gets tight when anybody outside of the community, when a white person damages a Black man, then we get super tight about it, right? So I don't think it's fair for Crystalline to act like it's just when Black women are hurt by Black men that nobody cares so much. Black men hurt other Black men and nobody cares so much. The thing is that we tend to care more when somebody outside of our community harms us. The difference is that as women, there's an expectation that we will be safe because men are present. And so if we don't get that, it's different for us. If two men start fighting, men don't really have the expectation that like other men are going to jump in for them, right? If a woman is being harmed, she does have the expectation that men will jump in for her and save her, especially if it's a child or something like that. So on one hand, I think Crystalline is either not thinking it through or she's being disingenuous, because the Black community is always more outraged if an outsider attacks one of us, always. On the other hand, I think that we have to acknowledge that that behavior is consistent, right? We consistently give more attention to violence that comes from outside of our community than violence within the community. We have to be honest with that. Dr. G, let me put the link in the chat. Right now, I'm just letting Dr. G come up. So although I'm putting the link in the chat, if you try to come up, I won't let anybody up but her. I'm just letting you guys know. I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but because people have such strong opinions about Crystalline, I want us to really focus on the issues and not focus on like or dislike of Crystalline. Okay, so now she's going to go into the archetype that is George Floyd. And I want you to hear what she's saying, because honestly, Crystalline is on point with this. She just is. Again, her rhetoric aside about who Black women should be with, only focusing on the talking points. If we can manage that, let's try to manage that.
And she had felonies, and she had babies by multiple men, and she had a white fiance. What reception do you think Georgetta Floyd would have gotten? Would there have been the same type of energy put into seeing justice for her?
Yeah, and
it's
if you don't,
question I'm asking for a friend.
Right.
Okay, so obviously, if George Floyd was a woman with a white partner who had done porn and was on drugs, the community would have looked at it differently. But I don't think that's because it would have been a Black woman. I think, like, if a woman acted like that, just period, that people would look at her differently, because women, whether it be fair or not, are held to a different standard than men. So George Floyd can be a porn person and be on drugs and be interracially dating, and nobody will care. People are going to care more because it's a woman, I think for her to say that people would care more because it was a Black woman is not the truth. Any woman, just if we look at porn, period, women who do porn are looked down upon, whilst men that do porn are not looked down upon in the same way. That's just what it is. Do you know what I mean? That's not race specific. So I don't know that I can really rock with her on that point. But I do want to play the next clip, and this goes into point 2. Remember, point 1 was they feel that in the Black community, we hide sexual abuse, right? Point 2 is that they feel like they are unloved and unheard by the Black community. And this is my next clip where somebody speaks onto that point.
I date interracially too, and let me tell you, this is the other thing, is that the conversations I can have with my white partner, I couldn't have with a regular Black man on the street. Yeah, and I can talk to my white partner about misogyny, misogynoir, colorism, what's going on with Black women, and I'm sitting across from Black men that I know who just refuse to acknowledge it. Right. They don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it. It's a no-go. It's a non-starter. And you look and you're just like, wow. Right. And here's the thing. We hear a lot from the community. We love our Black women. We love y'all. Love is an action. Love isn't just a word. Love is an action. And if we're matching dollars to donuts, the love, just the action of love, just is simply not there. I don't believe you need more people. I just don't. I find all of these platitudes and cliche things that are said to sort of pacify us. And the fact of the matter is that clearly, if there is a love, if there is an attachment, it's a dysfunctional one, very dysfunctional, very one-sided.
Okay, so what do you think about that, Dr. G? Do you think that the Black community shows love to our women in a way that is evident?
Hey there, Irene. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, Irene. Hey, everyone. Thank you for the invite. No, I think what you're saying is right on point, and I'm glad you're using her content to sort of lay this out, because it shows that, you might not like a certain talking point from a certain content creator, but they actually might have good content that is advantageous for us all to take part in, or to at least listen to. So it's important that we give them a chance and, hear them out wholly, and not segregate ourselves from the content based on one aspect of their message. But I think what you said about chewing gum and walking at the same time hit the point right on the head. We in the community have sort of been taught to be very protective of our men, because we understand mass incarceration. We understand that Black men are being singled out in mass numbers and incarcerated for things that they have done and have not done, right? The sentencing is unbalanced, it's unfair many times. And so we've been taught over time to be very protective of that, right? But we have got to be able to not only walk, but the chewing gum part is separate when they have committed crimes that actually do dictate a need for calling the authorities and get the authorities involved. We can't wholeheartedly say, okay, let's not involve the authorities, when there are crimes like what he's talking about, what Crystalline is talking about, being committed. There are times when we have to get the authorities involved so we can stop that perpetrator from inflicting that particular type of harm on the community. Like, there's no other way. Unless you're going to do vigilante justice, then the only other way, because trust me, I believe in eye for eye. I do. But many of us are not about that life, right? So we have to get the authorities involved when that is the course that's due, okay? These random calls for things that are not necessarily, that shouldn't involve the police, or if we've done something and we're just angry, so we're going to call the police, not those kinds of things, right? But when we're talking about this kind of attack, we have to get the authorities involved. And let me just go ahead and say this too. I think that goes twofold. That goes for the men who harm and abuse, and the women who do the same. It's not a one-way trajectory where only the masculine in our community are incarcerated. But if we know of women that are inflicting that kind of harm, they too should also be, authorities should be called on them as well.
So Stickman357 said, we need to stop this Willie Lynch Black men versus Black women bullshit. I agree. I just want to make sure that the spirit of what you're saying is right. It's not Black men versus Black women. When Brother Amawale was here, which is the last live that I had on this channel, we literally said that our suffering runs parallel to each other, and our suffering is intertwined in some ways, right? That one of our suffering causes the suffering of the other. So I hope that the spirit that you're saying is, let us focus on each other simultaneously, and that you're not saying what the young sister earlier was saying, which is every time Black women try to say that we have a problem, we are told that we're being divisive. Because that's a difference, right? It's a difference between saying, let's not be divided. We can focus on us both. This is not a competition. and saying that if Black women speak about having needs or fears or hurts, that it is somehow being divisive by voicing that. So I just want to be clear that your spirit is right when you make that comment, and that you mean the latter and not the former. I think that's really important. So the first 2 points of these women were, just to reiterate, number one, they feel that sexual abuse is hidden in the Black community. And we know that 60% of our women, that's our reported cases of abuses. That means most Black women are sexually abused before the age of 18. The second point of these women is that they feel unheard and they feel unloved. They feel the Black community does not demonstrate love through our action toward our women, and they feel that they are unheard, that when they speak up about the pains that they have, that they are told, we'll get to you another time, or you're being divisive. The third point of these women, and I want to go to the clip here, is that they are searching for allies, that they feel so lost, right, in the Black community, so unheard, that they literally just start searching for allies wherever they can find them. And it's not that they like the allies that they have to pick, but that they recognize, I need an ally, because as a woman, I can't protect myself. So I just want you to hear the words, in their words, them expressing that.
Jean Pierre actually jumped up, a dark-skinned woman, to defend, and it may have been Kamala Harris. I'm not even sure who it was. I can't remember, but they talked about how brave she was and how strong she was. I'm like, see, there's a problem right there. So, it's like they're not going to tell our stories. So, I mean, I know everyone that's Black hates, the right-wing media, but I think that if we can find allies, you find allies where you can get your allies. And,
right.
So if we have to go somewhere like Fox and tell our stories.
That's what I'm saying. Go to Fox News. I mean, because it
Okay, so you heard the women say, like, we have to find our allies wherever we can get our allies. Like, if the Black community won't ally with us to stop sexual abuse, to stop physical abuse, right? If the 60% of Black women who are being molested just don't matter to the Black community, and we're not going to become their allies to protect them, then they're going to go searching for allies because they got to have some. And I want to say in the chat, if we can literally, and I do not want my mods we're not here to attack each other. That's not the point of this. Please, it's not the point. The point is not to drag Black men. The point is not to drag Black women. The point is to say that we have a whole sector of women who are hurting. And we talk about Crystalline and all the horrible things we feel she's doing over there. But then the women who are talking to her, they haven't said anything bad about Black men. Nothing. They're talking about the fact that they've been abused, and nobody wants to talk about that. They're talking about the fact that if they bring up the fact that maybe something should change with our treatment of our women, nobody wants to talk about it or hear them. They're talking about feeling like they're not loved by the Black community. They're talking about feeling like they have no allies, that when they turn to us, we don't listen, we attack them. So this is not about a gender war. This is about, do we care about Black people or not? Are we pretending to care about Black people, or do we care? Do we want to call them bedwenches, or do we want to make them feel safe in their own community, feel heard and protected in their own community, so that they don't feel that they have to pander to somebody who's like, oh, well, I'll hear you. I hear you. I've got a solution for you. Fuck your community. If the only person who will listen to them is somebody with a message that is divisive, then who should they turn to if we refuse to hear them? Like, I don't understand you guys fighting back and forth in the chat. This mess needs to stop. I don't see how you guys aren't taking that from hearing these women, that this has to stop. But Dr. D, what do you think about the search for allies? You heard the sister say, we have to get our allies wherever we can find them.
Right, that's right. I mean, and that's exactly how any hurt persons or people, that's what they do. They're going to search for people who understand their pain, who can identify with what they've been through, and who are going to show them some amount of empathy or sympathy, who's going to be able to um, sort of cradle them in their time of need. But what we don't want, which is what you said, Irene, is to push these people out of our community into the hands of someone that has a message that is divisive, right? Or that can be divisive. Why do we have such a hard time embracing the people who have been abused in our community? I mean, we know abuse happens. We know it happens on behalf of men and women. We know that men, women, boys, girls, or at least women, girls, boys, they're all abused at some point. We know this happens. Why do we have such a hard time discussing it without it becoming an issue of blame? I mean, it happens on both ends. It happens to, many people in our communities. Why can't we discuss it without making people feel as if we're trying to plant a seed of division, you know? And
Oh, Dr. G. Okay, she cut out, but while her connection is coming back together, I just want to say, Dog Eat Dog said, the culture needs more male leadership. I agree. But Black female culture is anti-male leadership. Please square those two things. This is what I'll say. I believe in male leadership.
to me, it's hurtful to find that.
Okay, she's cutting out again. Dr. G, you're cutting out. Dr. G?
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, try to say something because it was a little bit sketch.
Okay, I'm trying to move my positioning. Okay, can you hear me better?
Yeah, and can you work into your commentary? Dog Eat Dog said the culture needs more male leadership, but Black female culture is anti-male leadership. Please square those two things.
Black female
culture is anti-male leadership. So basically saying he recognizes the problem is, and Dog Eat Dog, I hope that you're male. He recognizes that the culture is in need of male leadership, but that Black women are against male leadership. So then how are the two things going to work? If the culture needs male leadership and we won't take male leadership, how will it work?
Well, I think if that's true, because I personally I don't feel that way. I'm not opposed to Black male leadership. But I think if that's true, do we think that perhaps it happens because of situations like what we're discussing? Women are abused and, sort of thwarted with their concerns, and then they don't have anyone, men or women, that are listening to them and giving them a voice. I mean, so if that's happening, why don't we look at perhaps the root causes of why those women don't seek male leadership? Something has to be occurring to make that happen. I personally don't feel that way. I know Irene doesn't feel that way. So what's happening with these women who are in that situation is what I would have to ask. And then, are we being good stewards to our abused? Are we listening to our abused? Are we taking care of them? Are we, loving on them and giving them a voice without shunning them and saying, hey, this is because you're a single mother. This is because, you are a deadbeat dad. Or this is because, you have so many children out of wedlock. None of those things really matter in the big scheme of things, because you still have somebody who's depraved who is abusing them.
So I'm sorry. I just want to say, Misanthropic Lioness, if your sister is married outside of the Black race, she's not happy because she's outside of the Black race. She's happy because she has a good husband, right? So I just want to be careful, again, with people's intent behind the comments that they're making. There's nothing superior about any group of men simply based on their skin color. There are good people and there are bad people. And so unless you just are sharing your sister is happily married, I don't really see the benefit, right? Also, I want to say that I am the first to say Black women have accountability in this. Anybody who's watched my channel knows I have a whole video where I literally just talked to Black women about how we need to protect our children and stop letting men in spaces that can molest our children. Okay, I have touched on this many times. I have several videos on this channel about sexual abuse. And I feel both the abusers and the parents of those children who are abused are responsible, be they male or female. But Dr. G has a point, which is we can't say if 60%, if most of the women in our community have been abused by men, that we don't understand why they have an issue with male leadership. What if their experience with men is negative, then we can't expect them to have a positive outlook of male leadership. So what we have to do is protect our children. We have to listen to these women and not be like, well, they don't want this and they don't want that. We have to listen to these women and recognize we must protect our people young, because if we protect our children young, then we won't have to worry about them growing up into people who have a negative outlook on what interaction with men are like. And then they won't fall prey to people who are like, well, those men are trash, come over here, these men are better. Because that is essentially what is going on. Like, the mudslinging has to stop. We have adult women saying, we're being abused and nobody's talking about it. If we try to talk about it, people start to attack us, tell us don't say anything. We're told to keep quiet about this. We're searching for allies. They're telling you what they need. Do we want to fix the Black community or don't we? That's the question. Do we want to fix the Black community or not? Or do we just want to mudsling and hate on each other? If every time somebody speaks up to say there's a problem, we don't want to fix the problem. We just want to talk about what the victim isn't doing to make it easy for us to do what we need to do. We're never going to get anywhere. So we have to be more oriented toward listening, having compassion for each other, and talking about solutions and not mudslinging. Talking trash about each other is not going to help this situation. It's not. Talking trash about each other is why we have a chunk of those 60% of abused women rolling off to divestment movements. It's not helping. It's not helping at all. Which brings us to point number 4 that these women have made. And I want to go to that clip where they talk about the Black community having a lack of introspection. Imagine that we are not introspective as a community. And since we are not introspective as a community, we're incapable of assessing our own flaws. We don't see our own flaws because we lack introspection. So let's listen to that clip.
Terrible job at protecting Black women. At this point, it's obvious. Anyone who says differently just does not want to see what we all see. They want to.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to say dog eat dog. Protection doesn't work that way. You don't place yourself under protection. Okay? Children, we're talking about abuse that happens that then damages adults. Children don't place themselves under protection. It's for the adults to do it. So the brokenness starts young. And then these young abused people grow up to people who then have issues. It's not the place of a child, a little girl, to protect herself. She doesn't place herself under protection. Don't come in my chat with stupid stuff. These women are talking about they were abused young and told they couldn't talk about it, that nobody is listening to them. And you're going to come in my chat and you're not going to listen? I don't understand that. How is that productive? It's not. It's inflammatory and you're doing it on purpose, or you're obtuse. It's one or the other.
And that's what commonly happens when we start to have these conversations, Irene. You get derailed trying to keep people on the point. That's what happens. And so we don't get anywhere. It ends in frustration, and then we're back at square one. No solutions, no way to move forward, but still the gender war persists. I mean, and we're not even talking about that. That's a totally different subject.
Right. This is not about female submission. We're only addressing the points that these women are bringing up. We're only addressing the points that these women are bringing up. And honestly, if there are any women here who feel this way, they're watching the vagrants of our Black male society, because all Black men don't feel like this, but they're an outspoken minority not listening. They talked about childhood abuse. Childhood abuse. Being violated by men, and then being told by their mothers and their fathers and their uncles and their aunts not to talk. They're saying that when they try to speak, people like some of you in the chat do what you're doing right now, which is try to point the finger at them for how dare they even bring it up. What did you do? What is your responsibility in your abuse? How dare you ask for protection? Which is essentially telling somebody, you might have been abused, but I don't care what happened to you. And it's not right.
Or you don't have the right to hold your accuser accountable. You don't have the right to speak up against and be in opposition of what happened to you. That you don't have that right.
Right. And then when we have women that see that, on one hand, they see you talking crazy, and on the other hand is Crystal and Karazin saying, I understand exactly what you mean. And you can see that these fools, you see how they're talking to you. You see that that's like, you prove her right.
Exactly. You give her a voice. You give her a voice. You give her a platform. And then you send more and more women over there day after day after day. They leave chats that Irene is trying to diffuse this one, of course, but some woman in here who perhaps is just listening and not speaking is hearing and reading these comments where the feud is trying to get started. And then what do? They go and listen to her. And now she has another follower based on people who are not listening.
Right, exactly. And Darius, you might have to listen to the replay, but that's exactly what they said. Like, I'm not changing what they said. That's literally what they said. That's why I've been playing their words. These women have directly came out and said, and they haven't said not one thing bad about Black men. Not one thing. You could go listen to this whole thing in its entirety, and there's only one woman for a brief moment who brings up something about Black men that I felt was inappropriate. But overall, over and over, you're going to hear them say, as I go through these clips, this is not to diminish what Black men are going through. Several women said that. This is not to diminish what Black men are going through. We just want to be heard. These are women on Crystal Karazin's channel saying, we don't want to diminish what is happening to Black men. We just want you guys to care about us and love us too. On her channel, they're saying that because they don't feel they can say it in spaces like this. So when are we going to welcome them and let them know that their voices are wanted and needed here, and that we want to fix those problems as a community, that we hear them? Why is she the only person willing to hear them? And then we want to blame them for going to the one place that's not going to drag them. It's wrong. But again, that brings us to their fourth point. And their fourth point is the Black community lacks introspection. And so let's listen to them talk about our lack of introspection.
Absolutely. Does anyone else on the panel have something to say? So, see? Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Oh my goodness, we got this international element going on here. Hello.
Hi. I'm so happy that I've gotten through here because I've been talking about you literally all week to my friends in London. And listen, your message, we're getting the message. Like, we're waking up. People are waking up to what's happening. Like, because I've honestly, Kristen, I've known this since I was probably like 12 years old. I've looked at the community and gone, this doesn't make any kind of sense. Like, I'm seeing what's happening here. I'm seeing the fact that our community is so Black male identifying. Like, we make up 2/3 of the community, yet all of our, like, every interest is in Black men. Like even the way we raise them, like, lack of accountability. Like, I live in London, but I'm also
I want you to hear that. She said, even the way we raise them, taking responsibility. She's saying we bear responsibility because we're rearing people up with these ideologies.
I grew up in the Caribbean as well, so I'm from Jamaica. So for me, what's going on at the moment, where is this focus on police brutality, which I think is really important, of course, but they're ignoring police brutality towards women, of course. The truth of it is, in Jamaica, in America, in the UK, black men are more scared of each other than they're scared of the cops, yeah? So we're not discussing the things within the community that are an issue for people like black women. Like, if I'm ever going to be attacked by someone, if in this country, if I've ever been attacked, it's been by a black man who's calling me a black bee, a black this, a black that, everything that's coming out of his mouth is black, it's something to do with my hair,
N-word, like I have been called the N-word by 2 white people and numerous black people. Like, I can't even count on both hands and toes how many times I've been called that by black folks.
Same. I can't say to you that I've ever experienced it. Of course I.
Okay, so clearly this woman is angry. She's saying, I'm from the Caribbean, I moved to the UK, grew up in the UK, and this is just dysfunctional. That black men, she feels that they're not taking accountability for what's going on in the community. So, for example, we have a 60% child molestation rate in the black community, but black men don't want to face the fact that most of that molestation is being done by other black men. Or, you know, like the friendly Muslim said, or it's Muslimi, right? I can't say it. I know you're female though. Like you were saying, you said, I will always see black women as powerful and able to keep abuse out of their homes and away from their children. I think a lot of black women definitely have that ability, and we ought to, but I also think we should recognize that women are victims of abuse too, right? And there is a power dynamic there. So there's female accountability, but also we have to allow our males to be accountable. And that's what she was saying, is we raise men up to believe that they don't have to be accountable. And I'm asking you, is there any truth to that? Do we ever expect introspection to occur both in women and in men? Like, as black women, we must be introspective and cognizant of who we let in our homes and who we give our bodies to, who we lay down with, keep our legs shut, right? But as black men, there needs to be introspection about the fact that black men are having sex and sexually molesting and touching on little girls, and that there's some abuse of black women going on. There has to be introspection on both sides. Dr. G, what do you feel about this argument that the black community as a whole lacks introspection? Oh, I don't know if I think I might, Dr. G is having reception problems, so I might have lost her. Yeah, I lost her. She's having connection problems. But there is a lack of introspection. I think if we're honest about it, then we can definitely say that we see a lack of introspection in the black community. Again, it's not a blame game. It's just that these women are going there because they feel heard. So my question for us is, will we choose to hear them too? Are we going to pretend like there's no truth to this? We're going to pretend like there's not an abuse problem in the black community? We're going to pretend like if somebody says they're being abused, we don't tell them not to say anything, or we don't ignore it, or we don't tell them they're fast, or that they had it coming, or it was how they were dressing, even though they're a little kid? Are we going to pretend like we protect and show love for our women collectively? Because if 60% of women are being abused, it might follow that we're not showing love for our young ladies, right? Are we going to pretend like we lack introspection, that we don't recognize places where we need to do better, and that we're not open to conversations about where we need to improve as black men and black women? Or are we perfect? That's my question. Is the black community perfect? We're just not doing anything wrong? These women are lying? All that stuff is made up that they're saying? It's just, I have to admit, I haven't been called, you know, a nigga or a nigger by black people much, because that's not the way the people that I'm around talk. But I've definitely been harmed more at the hands of black men than anybody else. You know, you guys know I have a knife that was shoved into my neck by a black man. Now, I'm in a relationship with a black man that I love. He is an excellent leader. He works hard in the community. I look up to him. He inspires me, and I love him. But the reality is, I know what it's like to be in an abusive situation with a black man. And lots of black women do. Are we going to pretend like it's not going on? Like, or are we going to say we need to fix something about this? We need to teach our children, our young women, that they're safe and how to be good mothers, and our young men how to be protective and good fathers. Are we going to say that there is a problem, and that we want to solve it? Or are we going to pretend like these women are just making all this stuff up? They just hate black men, and they're just saying this stuff, and it's all a lie, and then none of this is going on in the community. What are we going to say? So Darius said men have to start checking these men. And I agree. I agree with Darius. As women, we need to correct and teach other women, right? And men have to do the same for men. We can't continue to act like the black community is infallible. Like we make no mistakes, like we have no room for improvement. We got an excuse and a blame game for everything. When are we going to say we just need to fix these things? They're wrong and they need to be fixed. How hard is that? Why do we have such a problem with that? Why do we just sit around and pretend it's not going on? Or we've never seen this. We've never heard of this. This is all brand new. Like it's the first time when Irene Yvette brought it up on my channel. It's the first you've ever heard of this. I don't understand that. I don't, like, it's a problem. And that is what they were saying, is lack of introspection. And something else that the ladies were talking about is that they seek protection, that they're looking for protection. Let's go to 26. They say that they are seeking protection. And then I'm going to share some screenshots with you from the conversation that they were having, because a lot of them were saying, I'm afraid, I'm scared, things like that.
Anyone else wants to go next?
Could I just say a few points before I leave?
Yes.
I remember in the live with you, Chris and Candy, Charles Kelly said that it would take a lot of black women dying for people to actually realize that this is an actual issue. And in terms of the poor victim, why was a girl in such a vulnerable position outside protesting for Black Lives Matter when she was homeless, when she didn't have anywhere to seek refuge? Why was she on the front lines? And the fact that none of the mainstream...
That is what is expected. That is what is expected of us. There's no reason why a 19-year-old girl is out there, should be out there homeless, depending on the kindness of strangers that ultimately led to her demise. She should be out there protected, but she's out there fighting for other people that I'm wondering who fought for her. Nobody. She gets a few little token. Thank you for the super chats too, by the way, you guys. Oh my goodness. Misanthropic Black Chick, thank you for the $60 super chat.
Okay, so she's touching on something else. She said that this young lady who was killed, she was homeless, and she's wondering, where was the Black community for this young homeless Black girl? And how many Black women have been on the street? And we have family and friends and things like that. And in one way, our community is very embracing, In another way, I know for a fact, because I work with a lot of youth and a lot of women, I'm very passionate about women, and I know for a fact there are a lot of Black women who are literally, they get abused and they have nowhere to go. They have nobody to help them. They have nothing, nowhere to turn to, because the families that they come from are so dysfunctional. I know a Black woman who sat in a house with other adopted children and was sexually molested, and everybody in the house knew it. But because she had a big butt and large chest, people said she was asking for it. So, you know, the thing is, we have to be capable of recognizing when there might be validity to these arguments, and how, as a community, and somebody said, so what do we do? And we're going to talk about solutions. But first, I wanted to go through the 5 points that I learned listening to this Crystal and Kara's Live of why these women are over there. And mind you, notice they're not bashing Black men. Now, I'm not saying Crystalline doesn't do that over there, but these women who called into her show, they didn't call in to bash Black men. They called in to kind of share their grievances, to talk about what was hurting them, what they were afraid of. That's what they called in for. And they say that we won't listen to them, that over here in the Black community, we completely ignore them. We won't listen to them. So they're going to the place where somebody listens. They're drawn in because she's sympathetic to them. They're drawn in because she's offering a solution. Why don't we offer some solutions for our own people? We cannot say we care about the Black community and we want to build the Black community, but when there's brokenness in the Black community, we want to not address it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it. Anything but, right? Anything but that. We have to do better. We have to do better. We have to do better for our women and our children. They are the most vulnerable. And it's not a competition with our men. It's just about the fact that we have to do better. We can't have this going on. We can't have 60% of our girls getting raped. We can't be telling them that they can't talk about it, that they can't go to the authorities, that we don't want to listen to them. We can't talk about, what did you do to deserve it? What part of this is your fault? We can't do that and then expect loyalty. That it doesn't work that way. We all have Black skin, but we're still people. We still have feelings. We still have needs. And as a community, it should be our business to meet the needs of each other, to protect each other, to hear each other. If we don't protect and care for each other, who's going to do that for us? But then we want to attack people when they feel they have to detach from a dysfunctional situation. Why don't we make the situation functional? Why don't we work together to make this thing better? How about that? That's an option. How about we try functioning properly for once? We can do that. There are too many of us with good hearts. There are too many of us that care about the Black community for us not to be able to work on fixing this. Let's go to 39. Let's go to 41. I want to go to another clip. This is them saying that they're seeking protection. They just want to be protected. They don't feel safe. And I would say if 60% of our women are being sexually molested, that's a right to not feel safe, right? That's valid. That's a valid point.
Try again. Lovely lady, you are on. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, I did. First, I want to thank you for this topic. It's been a tough day. I've been following Tony's case closely, and to hear of her passing, it's difficult. I volunteer at a women's shelter, and I live in a predominantly white area, suburban area. And I've been volunteering for about a couple months, and it's not lost on me that a majority of the women and children that come in are Black, are African American. And it is, it's very disheartening to see. It's all age ranges, but it's very disheartening to see, you know, younger women coming in who are still in communication with their parents, but they're in a shelter with children. It's very disheartening to see women in and out of extremely abusive relationships, young women and girls that are bright, that are smart, that are talented, that are capable, and that are just falling prey to very predatory men. And I think that it's very important to tell these stories. Toyi's her murder, because that's what it is, her murder. This should be a story that you see, as you said, on CNN, MSNBC, NBC. It's thankfully it's picked up on Twitter and social.
Okay, so she spoke about the shelter experience, and as a woman's advocate and having worked with a lot of women, I can say that's been my experience too. In the neighborhoods where I have volunteered, a great deal of those women are Black women. They do have families. They tend to be intelligent, but they tend to be broken. You know, there's a young lady I know who was recently sexually abused, and her mother came down on her. And I would hate to think that she would ever grow up and feel that she has to leave the Black community because nobody cared. And I literally just had to talk this little girl off of a ledge and try to be some sort of peace for her, as she was surrounded by people who didn't want to hear her voice. And my question is, why will we not listen to these women? Why do we want to attack them? Why do we hate them so much? They come to us first. Everything I'm hearing here is not that they love whiteness so much. It's that they feel there's no home for them in Blackness. They feel we don't want them. We won't protect them. We won't listen to them. Nobody has talked about the greatness of white people. Nobody has spoken about white being great. They've only spoken about how they're hurt. And because they're so hurt, they're searching for something. And then you have somebody that's offering them something because we don't want to hear them and we don't want to offer anything. It's not right. And it's not fair. And no, we're not going to just focus on the men. We're going to focus on the Black community because it's a community. And men and women function together. So I saw somebody in the comment section saying we only need to focus on the boys. No, that's crazy. If we only focus on the boys, would we just let 60% of Black women keep getting sexually abused? We're only going to focus on the boys? We focus on everybody. Every child is precious. Every Black life is valuable. Every last one of us has value. Every last one of us, male or female, deserves to be heard. It's not right. What we're doing is wrong. It's wrong, and that's why they're over there with Crystalline. It's wrong. And we won't make the situation better by talking about these women and attacking them. It's not going to make things better. What we are doing as a community is wrong. It is wrong. It's not right. And that's why they're there. Why don't we make a place for them to come? Is this not our community? We can't build spaces for our own people? It's unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. I want to go to the final clip. It's a really short clip. And I hope that you guys hear what this woman says, because I think it's really the heart of this whole situation.
It's global, from sea to shining sea. I mean, listen to what we're saying. Listen to Black women. Listen to what we're saying.
And also, Kristen, with the women who follow you, like if you listen to our stats and our background, we're the women that they say that, you know, that don't exist. Like a lot of us don't have children. I own my own home, right? I'm very like family oriented. I don't have children. I'm college educated. I don't lead with these things, but I have it, right? So it's like, no, we're not talking about you. We're talking about that person. And it's like, no, you're talking about all of us. Like, just be honest. Call a spade a spade. And that's why I always say this. I like my races both.
So let's close with that. They're trying to say they're not bad women. Literally. They're saying we are the women that everybody says don't exist. And they still won't listen to us. We did everything right. We don't have kids. We went to college. Our lives are together. And we still can't be heard. Listen, this is what I'm going to say to you guys. This is what I'm going to say to you guys. The 5 points that I learned listening to the women on the pink pill. Again, not talking about Crystalline, but the women who gravitate to her. Things I learned listening to the women that gravitate toward her. I learned, number one, they feel the Black community hides sexual abuse of young women. Many of them have been abused and know people that have been abused. They feel that that's being hidden in the Black community. Considering that 60% of Black women have actually been molested, this is what is reported molestation rates, I would say that that's honest. Number two, they feel unheard and unloved in the Black community. They feel that if they come forward and they talk about the fact that they feel unprotected, that they have been abused, and that things have happened to them, that the Black community basically tells them to shut up and focus on the men. You heard it through their own words. They literally said, they'll say, focus on the men now and we'll get to you later. And in my chat room, I literally saw somebody say, focus on the men now and we'll get to the women later. Isn't it crazy that at the beginning of this live, I played a clip with a woman saying that's exactly what we say. I'm telling you, it's like, why do we prove them right? Why do we prove to them that we don't care about them? I don't understand this. It's so dysfunctional. We have to stop. Collectively, we have to stop. They say they feel unloved, that the actions of not wanting to hear them and telling them to hide sexual abuse in the Black community makes them feel unloved. Love is a verb, is what they're saying. They say, number three, that they are searching for allies. Anywhere that they can find an ally, they just want allies. If we provided ourselves as a community, as their allies, guess who they would be able to turn to? Us. But apparently, if I'm looking at the chat, a lot of you guys are too dysfunctional to know how to be allies to your own people. This is crazy. So I would say that those of us who are actually functioning and rationally thinking Black people, we need to start making spaces so that we can ally ourselves with victims in the Black community. We need to start creating spaces for these women, creating spaces for these young girls. We need to do it while they're young and in the home. Women, we need to not put our desires to have a male mate in front of our ability to protect our children. If that means you go to bed every single night by yourself and your daughter never gets touched, then so be it. Men, we need to kill, figuratively or literally, these men who are touching these young girls. There is no reason that the majority of Black women have been molested. We should be disgusted and outraged as a community that 60% of our women have been molested. There's no excuses for that. It's never right. It's never right. Yes, Lioness, we should have standards when picking partners. Yes, Lioness, we should have standards picking partners. But also men shouldn't be raping little girls. So can we say both? Can both be true? Are we going to play crazy out here? Or are we going to play crazy? Let me guess, we're going to play dumb, right? We know women should have standards when picking partners. We know this. But at the same time, although we know this, although we know women should have standards when picking partners, we also know that men shouldn't be raping women. Or are we going to pretend like we don't understand that? Huh? Are we going to pretend like we don't understand that? This is what those women were saying, that the Black community lacks introspection, that we teach Black men to not be accountable. So when you sit up and you say women should be careful picking partners without also saying that men should not be raping children, it's a problem. Both things need to happen. Women need to be more responsible and men don't need to be touching little kids. Both things are important. You don't point out one without the other. We do both. Nobody's stupid around here. You guys aren't retarded. Or maybe you are retarded. Let me know. Are we collectively retards? Do we have a brain? The women have work to do. The men have work to do. Period. Both people. It does not fall on the shoulders of any one group of people. It falls on all of our shoulders collectively. So start to work together. Stop finger pointing. Your finger pointing is not solving anything. You're not helping anything. You're divisive and hateful. You can never love a Black person if all you know how to do is point a finger. You can never love another Black person if you are not willing to correct both sides. People who do that aren't looking to fix anything. You're hateful people, and it's people like you that keep these problems going. We correct it all. The women need to do better, the men need to do better. But at the end of the day, we listen to these women. They are telling us what they need. And you guys calling them bed wenches, and you guys dragging them for filth and talking badly about them, it's not the answer. The answer is not to create a climate in the Black community where people feel like they don't belong, where people feel like they are not cared for, like people feel like they are not heard and they are not safe. That is the solution. To actually love each other and care for each other and advocate for each other. The solution is not to fight. James Von Maxwell, don't be stupid in my chat. You're ignorant and you're dumb. You literally just heard me say that men have accountability and women have accountability, but your simple-minded, retarded ass is going to sit in my chat and act stupid. And yes, I'll say that every single little girl who gets raped is a victim, you fool. And if you don't see that, you're broken. Every single child, every single 60% of those little girls in our community, 60% Almost all of our little girls are getting raped, and they are all victims, every last one of them. And the women and the men in our community need to protect them. So if you want to act like you're retarded in my chat room, I will call you for what you are. Simple and slow and dumb. I can't stand people like you. You act like you don't have any fucking sense. There's several of you in my chat room right now, acting like you don't have any sense, like you don't understand the words coming out of my mouth, like you don't understand mutual accountability. Let me repeat it for you. Mutual accountability. Mutual. That means men and women. This is not the gender war channel. That bullshit doesn't fly on my channel. Everybody has accountability here. Everybody. Every man, every woman has accountability. But to be accountable, you must listen to those people who are hurting. You can't be accountable for something that you refuse to acknowledge. But you know what? It's you loud, obnoxious, ignorant fools who are always in the face of somebody who's been hurt and making them feel like they don't belong in our community. Your asses should be thrown out of the community. Not them, not them. You need to go. You dysfunctional people need to get the fuck out of the Black community. Anybody who's not about building with each other, who's not about loving each other, who's not about protecting each other, and not about doing this work, why don't you guys leave? If all you want to do is tear us apart, then why are you here? At the end of the day, these women have a point. We ignore abuse in the Black community, which is why the majority of Black women are molested before they turn 18. The majority of Black women are molested because we ignore abuse. Women ignore abuse, men ignore abuse. We are all collectively ignoring it, and we need to stop. We are breaking people. We need to stop. We need to call these molesters out. We need to call these mothers who we know don't give two fucks about their kid out. Number two, we make people feel unloved. We make people feel unheard in the Black community. If women try to speak up, they are quickly told to shut up. We make them feel unloved because by our actions, we do not show them love. Number three, because they are not being heard and not being protected, they are constantly searching for allies, and that leaves them open to manipulation by people who will pretend to be their allies for their own agendas. Number four, our community lacks introspection. We are incapable of assessing what we are doing wrong and correcting it. And I see a lot of you guys who don't have any introspection in my chat trying to act dumb right now. And number five, we have women that are seeking protection. Crystalline Kerosene isn't our problem. Us creating a climate where there are Black people who actually feel that being told that they are hated by the Black community and should go elsewhere makes more sense than being in a community where literally they're being raped and not listened to is the problem. We have to fix ourselves. We have to join together and do better as Black men and Black women. And honestly, for those of you who are pink-pilled, I want you to know that I'm not alone. Despite the couple of fools in my chat, the little smattering of people who are in the chat acting stupid, I hope you notice that the majority of people are much like me in their heart, which is you are welcome in this community. You are loved, and we do hear you. And trust and believe, the vagrants in the Black community will be weeded out. You don't have to go anywhere. The protections you are seeking, men are trying to do that. I just did an interview with a brother today. I volunteer at a school with a brother who is doing that. I am surrounded. I am married to a man who is doing that. There are men who care about and love you. All Black men are not like these fools that berate you and put you down. And all Black women are not against you. You have allies with us. You are loved here. And if you focus on the voices of those of us who love you and who embrace you, and we don't want to call you names, and we're not trying to run you off, then you will see that there is a community for you to be a part of. Nobody's ice is cooler. The thing is, you've got to associate with the right Black people. So there is space for you here with us. And to the ignorant fools in the room, look, fuck you guys, okay? Fuck you and your divisive, dysfunctional, non-introspective asses. Seriously. I give 0 fucks about somebody who is too dysfunctional and broken to know when they are ruining things for everybody. If you don't want to build, if all you can do is talk about what everybody else is doing wrong and how you've never seen a problem in the Black community, then really, I don't know why you're a part of this conversation. I really don't. This is not the delusional channel, okay? That's not my channel. You're not on Delusion Network. You're not on Gender War Network. That's not what we do over here. Over here, we listen, we love each other, we engage in introspection, we hold each other accountable. Over here, we build each other up. We don't tear each other down. So the fuckery can go elsewhere. This is not the fuckery network, in case you didn't know. Trust me, you won't be missed if you kick rocks. And with that said, I've got to go, you guys. I really do.